Ladies and gentlemen, to begin today's service, we will have the fire brigade to signal the very start of it. Following that, we will have the entrance song, which will be the very start to start the service. I'll now head out to the fireys for them to start the service for us. So please listen.
Never have sunlight on your face. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today to celebrate the life of a true hero, and his name is Geoffrey Sidney Wilson. So it's in thinking of Geoff today and saying goodbye that we can also say thank you to him for what he has given us. Our lives are enriched by people we meet and we're fond of. Each and every one of you will have your own beautiful memories. Hold those memories close as they may help you through times when you are struggling. I ask that you feel free to be at one with your sorrow, your sadness, and your memories. But I also ask you to feel the gladness, the happiness, and the purpose of a serenity of a life well lived. This time we spend together today is to remember Geoff and to allow our sorrow and sadness to surface and be expressed in words, in tears, in reflection, or whatever way is meaningful to each of us. We gather to remember Geoff and say goodbye. Our being together here is a support and comfort to each of us, whether members of the family or caring friends. Our collective sorrow and grief becomes a collective strength, enabling us to find closure and to move on without the physical presence of our friend Geoff. Let's remember Geoff's life with gratitude, joy, gladness, and love. And after meeting his family, there is lots of love. When we lose someone dear to us, the hurt can be almost unbearable, yet somehow we seem to get through it. And I believe it's because we feel such pain, because the inner ache is so great that the grief and the heartache we feel bears witness to the depths of our love. You see, grief is a great indicator of love. It simply and does not exist unless there has been lots of love. The following words are a tribute to an endearing unconditional love. To be loved truly by someone is a rare thing. A husband's love, a father's love, and a grandfather's love is something that is never lost. For the love that was in your heart, Geoff, is now in ours, and we will never forget you. I would now like to take this opportunity to call forward Judy, who is going to give us a snapshot of Geoff's life.
This is the life story of Geoffrey Sidney William Wilson, as told by his two sisters, Judy and Linda, and his family. Geoff was born on the 19th of July 1948, the second child to Mary and Sid, brother to Judy. We lived at the cake shop in Botany Road, Botany. I called Geoff Brother Boy, and I adored him. Our Nana Benny, used to come over to Botany each Friday and take us for walks in a great big old cane pram, sometimes up to 4 kids in it. She'd walk for miles and keep us entertained while Mum and Dad worked. Geoff became enthralled with fire engines in Botany, as the fire station was not far from our shop. This was the fire station that Geoff's future father-in-law eventually would work at. Every siren that sounded, Geoff would run to the front of the shop to watch it go by. Geoff loved water from the beginning, and Mum often said he could swim nearly as soon as he could walk. Dad and Mum sold the shop in about 1950, and they bought a cream and green plywood caravan, in which we lived for 18 months. Dad, Mum, Geoff, me and a dog named Rover set off to tour southern and western New South Wales. It was only a small van, and the double bed had to be made up every night over the table and the seats. Cooking was on a Primus stove, and we had a kerosene hurricane lamp and a pressure lamp for lighting. Dad would often shoot a rabbit along the way for dinner, which he would clean and ready for the pot. When we were finished touring, we camped in a friend's backyard in Kendall Street, Sans Souci, for another 9 months. We had an annex next to the caravan where we would have a bath in a big round tin tub. How hard it must have been for Mum in those days. She washed by hand, carted water for our baths, etc., made the table into a bed each night. She ironed with a flat iron that she heated on the Primus stove. Dad eventually bought a house, but only when Mum became pregnant with Linda. There she is. Thanks, Linda, for the house. We might still be in the caravan. Mum became pregnant with Linda in 1952. There certainly wasn't enough room in the caravan for another child. 5 Primrose Avenue in Sans Souci was just 1 street away from the beach. So as kids, we all spent a lot of time there. Also in Dolls Point Park, which was not far away. We played in the street with all the other local kids, the Freckletons and the Edens, hopscotch for the girls, marbles and tag, and cricket for the boys. If a car came around the corner, we'd just get off the road, but not many did. We would go out in the morning and just have to come home for lunch, then out again in the afternoon, and Mum would say, be home by dark. At one stage, when he was about 8 or 9, Geoff was unhappy and he decided to run away from home with a little girl across the street, Leslie Eden. So he packed a bag with a fry pan and some matches so he could cook the snakes they were going to catch these. And they set off. And they walked up to Sans Souci, where the car ferry used to cross over to Tarrant Point. And off they went. When they arrived at Tarrant Point side, which was just bush in those days, they watched the ferry head back across. By the time it returned back for the next crossing, they decided they'd head home again. A real adventure. We swam most days in summer and even in winter. Geoff would come home wet and tell Mum, he said, I just fell in. I was walking around the bars and I just fell in. We had an idyllic childhood. Geoff's childhood friends were Johnny, Freck and Ray Glover, who lived opposite and just next door. Geoff joined Cubs, then was promoted to Scouts, which he really enjoyed. A cat which Geoff had found as a kitten and brought home used to follow Mum when she walked Geoff around to Cubs. Geoff did very well in swimming and was awarded a Royal Life-Saving Bronze Medallion at the earliest possible age. At one swimming meet at North Sydney Pool, he met Dawn Fraser, who was a special guest. Geoff attended Sans Souci Public School, and in 2nd class he was chosen as the one to crown the Wattle Queen that year. That was a very important role and he did it very well. Geoff struggled at school but was always well liked by his teachers. He was a polite and happy student and always willing to accept any task he was given. After attending James Cook High School, Geoff had a couple of jobs before being apprenticed as a fitter and turner in Cogra at Craig and Nelson. When Geoff was 17, he met the love of his life, Cheryl Jackson. She was 15 at the time. We used to call her Jacko or Shezzy. While Cheryl was working as a checkout chick at Woolies in Cogra Square, he asked Wal if he would go and check her out, and Wal gave it a thumbs up. Checkout girls in those days had to know the prices of every item in the store, and they also had to learn the specials every week. They had to ring up the amount on a cash register because there were no scanners in those days. Geoff was always very proud of Cheryl, as she often won the checkout competition she entered. Geoff loved his mum and she loved him too. He got breakfast in bed until he left home. Linda and I used to say, Mum, you're spoiling him. He'll expect a wife to do that. But he used to give her the cup of tea in bed. Geoff loved Cheryl's family, Ron and Pearl and sister Diane. And as Ronnie was a fireman and Geoff had always been a fire chaser, first on his little legs and then on his scooter or bicycle and finally in his car. If he could see smoke somewhere, off he'd go in search of it. He really respected and looked up to Ronnie, and in 1971 he joined the fire brigade. His first station was at the Rocks in Sydney. He also served at Liverpool, Bonnyrigg Heights, Campbelltown, Cabramatta and Fairfield stations. Geoff and Cheryl were married in 1969 and moved into a flat at Cogra, where Tracy was born. They then moved into the cake shop at Ramsgate, where they both helped Mum and Dad Wilson, Geoff with the cooking and Cheryl in the shop. They then bought a lovely home in Campbelltown, where Donna and Jay were born and grew up. When they first moved in, Geoff had 2, 3 and 4 jobs. First, the fire brigade. He worked at the local pool. He had a window cleaning business, and he also worked as a lawnmower. Always a great worker. They built an additional 2 rooms on the house, a large garage and a beautiful swimming pool. There were always lots of kids' friends visiting, and they both made everyone feel welcome. Geoff always offered visitors a beer first up. Geoff was a good cook, and he enjoyed cooking and barbecuing and entertaining. He loved camping, and they camped for years at Lake Conjola on the south coast of New South Wales in a tent, a big one. They took everything but the kitchen sink. But then Jay could tell me yesterday they even took a kitchen sink and a full-size fridge and a beer fridge. It must have taken a couple of trips to get it all down there. After Lake Conjola, they bought a caravan on site at Bendalong and enjoyed many years of relaxing weekends at Christmas holidays there, fishing and entertaining. They made many lifelong friends there. They named the van the Pizza Hut because Geoff said he was a wog with an Italian great-grandfather. Geoff and Cheryl were both proud and loving parents, and they had been wonderful, loving grandparents to their grandchildren, Courtney, Jake, Danielle, Katie, Ebony, Jack, Emily and Sam. Geoff loved the fire brigade and all the friends he had made in that service. But in 2000, when the Blue Mountains were engulfed in terrible bushfires, he was on a pumper engine and they'd run out of water. He was called to put a fire out and rescue some trapped people. He wasn't able to as he had no water left and he felt he had failed and let them die. He didn't fail and they didn't die, but it lived with him and he suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, and he eventually had to leave the fire brigade in 2003. He had witnessed terrible, sad losses of life throughout his career and could just no longer cope with it. He met and talked with a wonderful therapist named Angela in Campbelltown, who certainly helped him over many years and became a wonderful friend, not only a therapist. She remained in touch right up to the last and is still in touch with the family. And it's thank you to Angela today that we had the fire brigade pay a visit.
Angela was his angel. He called her his angel.
His angel, yes, she was. When Geoff retired, he and Cheryl decided to sell their Campbelltown house and buy land in Early Beach near their son Jay and family, who had moved up earlier. They found a beautiful 5-acre block and built a big shed which they lived in until their house was built in 2013. They both landscaped the block and Geoff loved mowing it, so their 5 acres looked like a bowling green. It wasn't long before their daughter Donna moved to Early as well. Now they were just missing Tracy. Tracy and family visited when they could, which they all really enjoyed. Grandchildren have been a big part in their lives, and the 6 grandchildren who live locally all visit often. Young Sam, who was born up here, spent a lot of time with Poppy. He would sit on Geoff's lap while he mowed and often just fall asleep. He called him Poppy Momo. When the kids were going to school, they would often get off the bus and Pop would meet them down the front on his mower, towing the trailer with 3 plastic chairs in it. They would all climb in and sit on a chair and Poppy would drive them back up to the house. Geoff and Cheryl had a caravan which they enjoyed and did many trips with friends and relatives. With Diane and Richard, they toured North Queensland. With sisters Judy and Linda, Wally and Brian, they went out to Winton and had a great time together. They've toured the Great Ocean Road, South Australia, Western Australia and the Northern Territory. They have enjoyed cruising to Tasmania and New Zealand. For Geoff's 70th birthday, the family bought them a trip to Tasmania, which they really enjoyed. And for their 50th wedding anniversary, Geoff ticked off one of his bucket list dreams, and they went to the Barrier Reef and had a night underwater in a reef sleep pontoon, which they both really enjoyed. I asked Jay for something special about his dad, and he said Dad really loved his relatives in uniform. They made him feel real proud, as he was of his own fireman's uniform. Most recently, his grandson Jack, when he joined the army at only 17, and is now Gunner Wilson. loving his new life. His nephew John Kenworthy, when he joined the police force, who had recently had a terrible accident, Geoff decided he would come straight down to Brisbane and visit him, which he did, and was wonderful. His nephew David Absalom, who joined the fire brigade, he was especially proud of them, said Jay. All Geoff's nieces and nephews loved him as he loved them. These are the things that Geoff enjoyed. Wood turning. He made some beautiful bowls, goblets and containers of various types of timber he really admired. Fishing at both Lake Conjola and Bendalong in his boat called Good Enough. Drinking, brewing and distilling. It kept up his spirit, said Wall. He loved it when his son Jay raised pigs and goats. The whole process. Thank you. And when they came back from the butcher, was great fun. Geoff loved seafood to eat and anything out of the sea. He loved it. He loved mowing, and neighbours called him the mower man, and the family called him Forrest Gump. So, to Geoff. Thank you, Geoff.
That was a fantastic tribute. Would anybody else like to come forward and say a few words? I would now like to direct your eyes to the screen, and we're going to see a snapshot of Geoff's life.
Falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. So I just did me some talking to the sun, and I said I didn't like the way he got things done. Sleeping on the job, those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. But there's one thing I know, the blues they send to meet me won't defeat me. It won't be long till happiness and shelter greet me. Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me. It won't be long till happiness steps up to greet me. The raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me. Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. Hey Jude, don't be afraid. You were made to go out and get her. The minute you let her under your skin, then you begin to make it better. And anytime you feel the pain, get Jude refrain. Don't carry the world upon your There's so much you've given me. I hope I made you proud. You're everything a dad should be. And it's time to tell you now. You're my hero. You didn't have to say a word. Your love was the message that I heard, inspiring me to be all I can be. You're my hero because you're my dad. I'm twice as blessed and lucky. I'm so lucky to be. Yeah, you're my hero.
They were pretty amazing, and there's always a big fish. Always a big fish. You will remember Jeff as a living, vital presence, and that his memory will refreshen your hearts and strengthen you in times of trouble. It may be helpful to know that grief can be felt in many different ways, and I encourage you to recognise your own experience of grief as normal. In grief, you may experience feelings of vagueness and forgetfulness, shock, denial, maybe suffer with regrets of things left unsaid, and tears. There will certainly be tears. These are all normal and natural reactions to the death of a loved one. I encourage you always to feel free and talk openly of your life with Jeff, and in doing so, you'll not only be keeping his memory alive, but you will find in time that you've helped each other with the variable process of healing your grief. Here at Whitsunday Funerals, we always like to send someone off with a blessing. So today we're going to say the Lord's Prayer together. So if you would like to join me, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen. I'm just going to say a short poem. Don't think of him as gone away, his journey's just begun. Life holds many facets, this earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sorrow and the tears, in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days or years. Think how he must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. And think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched, for nothing loved is ever lost, for he was loved so much. We have now come to the committal. We have come now to the final moment in the physical existence of Geoffrey Wilson, with respect, honour, affection, regard and love. Family and friends, it's now time to put those fond memories away in a safe place. Memories of the good times you shared with him, the times you laughed, the times you cried, but especially for the joy that Jeff has brought into your life. As we enter this day and share this time of remembrance with each other, we cherish the special place in our hearts that will always be reserved for Jeff, and thank him for his gift of living has brought to each of us. Jeff, your constancy and courage we commit to our memories forever. Your humanity and caring we commit to our hearts. Your mortal remains will now we commit to be cremated, and return to the cycles of nature that you understood so well. Geoff, you've worked hard all your life. You have earned your rest. I would like to leave you with this short verse. When you are walking down the street and you've got me on your mind, I'm walking in your footsteps, not a half a step behind. And when you feel that gentle breeze or the wind upon your face, that's me giving you a great big hug or just a soft embrace. And for when it's time for you to go from the body to be free, remember you're not going, you're coming here to me. Family and friends, I'd like to thank you for your attendance here today. And as we leave the service today, you are more than welcome to place some flower petals on top of Geoff's coffin as a symbol to say goodbye. And after the service, you are all welcome to Blaze RSL to share in some memories and some light refreshments. And thank you for everybody whose attendance here today, live streaming and in my chapel. Thank you.
The road is long with a many winding turn that leads us to who knows where, who knows where. But I'm strong, strong enough to carry. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. So on we go. His welfare is my concern. No burden is need to bear. We'll get there. For I know He would not envy. He ain't heavy. He's my brother.